Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Pod Strickland. I'm your host, Shwin and Prez. This episode 428. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host Prez, that is at _Presidente on Twitter/X. Prez, how you doing?
Better than last time. Better than last time when I was stricken with the plague.
Well, it's good to know that you recovered from the plague and that you're still with us.
Yes. No more coughing into the mic. The bass is back in my voice. I don't sound like Evan Turner anymore.
Let's go. Huge improvements. All right. Well, we're not going to be talking about your health for much longer. We're going to talk about basketball. But before we do that...
That could be very ominous.
Well, before we do that, before I fucking murder Prez, apparently. Before we do that, I do have to make a few announcements. First, that Strickland has an Instagram. Check that out. That is at the Strickland on Instagram. We're posting all kinds of new content on there. Strickland also has a YouTube channel where you may be watching this podcast. If you are not done so already, please hit like, subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment. That'd be a huge help to us. The Strickland also has merch, which you can find on our website at www.thestrick.land. There's a link that'll take you to the merchandise store. You can find all kinds of cool stuff on there, like t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, coffee mugs, water bottles, you name it, we've got it. And finally, the Strickland has a Patreon, which you can subscribe to. There are a number of different tiers. There's a $6 tier that gets you access to Pod Strickland, this podcast that I host every Friday with Prez. You also get access to Takes from Obvious Bozos, our latest podcast that is hosted by Andrew Steele, aka Doug, along with Zach Blatter, and you get access to the Strickland Discord where the conversation never stops. There are further tiers. There's a $9 tier that gets you access to Strick and Roll, my solo pod where I rant and rave about the next more. You also get access to wonderful premium articles by Matthew Miranda, one of the best in the business. And now you get access to Strictly NFL, which you guessed it is our newest podcast that is hosted by Konstantin Metrikos and Desmond Novak. And that, you may have also guessed, is about the NFL. There are further tiers. There's a $15 tier, $30 tier, $50 tier, and a $100 tier. That's with a variety of additional benefits, like listening on pod recordings, merchandise discounts, and even potentially co-host a podcast alongside yours truly one day, whether you choose to subscribe or not. None of this would be possible without you. And none of this would be possible without BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our $200,000 mega contest to pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. BetOnline. The game starts here. I was actually watching Carlito's Way before we just started recording. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, Prez.
A long time ago.
Al Pacino is Puerto Rican in that movie, and he certainly has an accent. Not sure that I would describe it as an accurate Puerto Rican accent, but it is certainly an accent. So thought you should be aware of that. I'm trying to get to know your people, you know?
Listen, he's I don't want to say he's grandfathered in, but we're not kicking him out so fast. That's all I'm saying.
It's like the racial draft in
the
Chappelle
show. We'll pick him in like the second round. We'll pick Al Pacino. Y'all can have Lyn Manuel Miranda. The Italians can have him. I'm bored with Lyn now. Y'all can have him.
All right. Unfortunately, we're not here to talk about Carlito's Way.
We'll attach 2 future first-round draft picks. 2
future Puerto Rican children.
Yeah. And to get off Lyn Manuel's contract.
I don't think he's I feel like his stock's probably pretty high. I'm not sure that he would be a...
We're selling high. You should know about selling high. You're always the fucking guy who's like, nah, they got to trade LaMelo now.
Well, they should have listened to me. All right. Well, speaking of LaMelo Ball, not that this podcast is about him, but he is a player who, once upon a time, received a full-scale rookie max extension prior to entering the final year of his rookie scale deal. And that's what we're here to talk about. We are here to talk about those that are unextended from the 2021 NBA draft class. So, to get some of these out of the way, Cade Cunningham, max extension. Evan Mobley, max extension. Scotty Barnes, max extension.
None of whom Shwin would have given a max extension.
Franz Wagner, max extension. Yeah, I wouldn't have given any of these guys a max extension. and trying to make sure. I think that is
That's
it.
it. Yeah, pretty
That's
sure.
it. All right. So we're gonna do an exercise because we have absolutely nothing else to talk about right now, unless you want to like get into the nitty gritty of like should the Nuggets have given Jamal Murray max extension? Probably shouldn't have, but again, I think nobody should get paid apparently. All right. Look, I wouldn't have done any of those maxes. I think it's fine to just make guys fucking like I just don't understand this thing. It's like you could ruin the fucking relationship. You know how you fix the relationship if it comes to that? You just give them the money. That's it. It's pretty simple. Like, oh, I'm sorry I offended you by not giving you a max extension, Scotty. Here's the max amount of money now. Are you going to say no? No, he's not going to say no. He's going to take it. So I never understand that. I think it's the dumbest thing that people argue as like some poisonous thing. Also, like, yeah, maybe he's going to be pissed in the moment. You have if you sign a guy to a 5-year deal, presumably you have 5 fucking years to potentially smooth things over. It's a stupid argument. I hate it, and I think it's a cop out. All right. So I guess let's just start from the top. Do you have any thoughts on any of these max extensions beyond? I think we've talked about them all before. Honestly, I wouldn't even give it to Franz, and I love Franz. Like I just don't see. I don't think any of these guys have proven like, hey, I want to give you. I want to marry you for the next 5 years. I don't feel that strongly about any of these guys.
Yeah, I've ever since you kind of, when they happened, I was like, yeah, I understand it, right? Like flaws and all, but like ever since you've kind of introduced that argument into my brain, I've actually brought it up with a bunch of other people, and I haven't really heard any argument that is super convincing. It all kind of revolves around like
Feelings.
well, not even feelings, but like corporate leadership security. Like, oh, the high draft pick got the thing. There's some counting stats there or some other type of buzz in the case of Mobley. And therefore, we are using this to show that we are on all caps, copyright, trademark, the right path. And like, I get them trying to will it into existence by doing that, but that doesn't really make it true. If you're still a shit show, they're eventually going to want out. And to your point, like,
or if they suck, you're just gonna be like, why did I do this?
that. So there's downside, which, these teams are not, they're operating on like what helps me today and tomorrow, which is already a problem. Not huge downside, right? I don't think there's a chance that these guys like suck, but
No, they're all gonna be in the league for the
right.
duration of these contracts.
But you paying them more than to not suck is the point. So I haven't yet, to your point, like I think I agree with you. I still think that's a hot take in the greater NBA world because people are like, what if, what are they like? What if they don't, it's take Cade, for example, like, oh, like the Pistons suck. What if they suck again? And then he's like,
no.
trade me or whatever. And it's like, okay, like that
Fine.
you giving him the money in that case didn't prevent that. So whoop-de-doo. Like
But
it didn't do anything.
the argument I always hear is like, you just have to do it, and I'm like, that's not a fucking argument. Like this is not an argument. Like, well, you just got to do it. Why?
The argument is you just got to do it because there's not much to lose, which I disagree with.
No, so I actually think the argument is well, so you're right. That is the argument, but the full kind of like reasoning and why people say it's fine. It's like, well, you just pay him and you figure it out later. And to that, I say we have to stop treating the current league, the current cap, and it's an entirely different ball game now. It is not the same league. It's not the same cap. It's not the same cap rules that govern all this shit. And therefore, the way you operate, standard operating procedures should change, and industry standards should change. Like, first of all, I mean, look, and even prior to this, I always think that was a stupid line of thought because, like, the Knicks could have probably just like they probably could have given they probably could have not played hardball with RJ and given him like maybe not the full max, but that he was worth, but like or that he could have gotten, but like like 450 or something. And like, thank God they didn't. And they were like, no, we're going to have an actual negotiation. Like, this is how this works. This is a business. We're going to actually negotiate a contract with you. And it's not going to be the max. Here's the number we're willing to go to. Do you want to pass that up? If you want to pass it up and you want to play it out and you want to roll the dice on yourself, go for it. But this is the number we're gonna give you. Also, if you don't sign this contract, maybe we trade you to Utah for Donovan Mitchell. Your call, bud. Maybe not every team has that Donovan Mitchell card in their back pocket to wield. Do you want to go to Utah? Is that what you want? But like, to bring it back to these guys, like, I just think you can't operate in this world where, like, well, we fucking sign him and figure it out later. Like, just it's not realistic. And like, to the point you brought up with Cade, where it's like, at some point, like, I get that the circumstances that he's had to deal with during his time in Detroit have been less than ideal, to say the least. But like, if they suck again this year, I mean, at some point, I'm just going to be like, well, I'm paying you a lot of money to change things for my franchise. And if you cannot stop us from just like not being absolute dog shit, then that probably just does say something about you. Even if even if the circumstances here do not allow you to be the best version of yourself, if you can't even stop us from being absolute dog shit, that says something about you. I don't know if that's going to be the case for Detroit and Cade. I don't know that, it's possible that Cade and Scotty Barnes and Evan Mobley and Franz Wagner, all these guys develop and these contracts look fine. It's not like I'm assuming they're all terrible contracts. I just don't know why you don't play it out if you have any doubt, because you're already committed to top dollar here. Like, you're already committing the maximum amount you can to these players. So if you're willing to do that anyway, why not just play it out? Be like, look, make some reasonable offer that is not the full max. Be like, this is where we are now. If this is a problem for you, then let's play out the season and let's revisit this next summer. And people don't like playing fucking restricted free agency in general. Okay, that's just like a thing that most teams don't like to do. There's not a lot of teams that have a lot of cap space to make these type of potential full max offer sheets for these guys anyway. And you have the 5th year, which no other team can offer. So you have and you can match any offer, right? So like, everything is stacked in your favor to use as leverage. Use fucking leverage. Like, it's just bizarre to me where like these teams will try nickel and dime everywhere else, but for these fucking random like rookie max extensions, it's just like, oh well, you got to fucking do it. And then I think we talked about this last week on the pod a little bit with regard to RJ, but like with these high draft picks in specifically, I think part of the issue is like it's that you're still anchored to like the pedigree of the prospect and the upside and what I think this guy was like, our projection versus what has this player done in the NBA and how should that affect your priors and how should that kind of change maybe what your projections were. I think that's always like a difficult song and dance, and you pay a price effectively for like if you're the number one pick, and you don't fucking suck, you're basically guaranteed to get a 9-figure second contract. Like, it's almost like it always happens.
Yeah,
right?
and with guys like Cade whose team is bad, it's easy to overlook where he isn't living up to what people think are number one standards.
And he carries himself well, which matters in these things.
Yeah, but like at the more you get a high pick like that on a competitive team, the more that stuff is glaring, right? Like, we talked about that for RJ. But Mobley's also a very good example of that. Like, he's clearly a fucking excellent player, flaws and all, especially at his age. Two-way player, still has plenty of upside. Has absolutely
beautiful jumper.
Yeah, I don't know about those words in that order, but he has cost his team. I mean, he's like done some things well in the playoffs, right? Like versus us, he played good defense on Julius Randle, playoff Julius anyway. But he got his ass busted on the glass, and he's not really been the help that they need on offense, right? Because that's a lot for a young player to do but like, the guy's getting paid like he's a shoo-in to do all that stuff. So like, it's a down payment, but like, you can't. There's no Cavs fan who can say they guarantee he's going to become a good shooter or a capable full-time five. Those are things that they want to happen and that he's had stretches of, but that's it, right? And he's good, right? We're not even talking like Jaylen Green or something like that, whose only stretch of positive play was the end of last year after he had his baby. And he was cooking for a while. And even then, the team wasn't doing so great while he was cooking. So it's it's a it's a blessing and a curse when these players who are expected to, like you said, just get max extensions are on teams that are not awful. And when they're on teams that are straight up bad, you have the teams that are desperate to show that they are doing things the right way. So in that case, the player is probably even more likely than the other situation. So this will be an interesting exercise for the guys who haven't quite risen to that level of counting stats to demand a max extension in this class, because there's a lot of guys in this class who just ended up kind of bums, but like there's some interesting cases as well.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we will start at the top. I don't even know how far we're gonna go. We'll as soon as it starts getting boring, we'll just we'll call it a day. But this draft actually goes pretty deep with interesting guys. Even our old pal Quentin Grimes. Hopefully he gets paid enough that he can get some proactive. That'll be great for him.
I thought you were gonna say paid enough that he decimates the flexibility of the Dallas Mavericks moving forward.
No, we don't have any skin in the game anymore. That we don't have their draft picks. It's divested from the Dallas Mavericks game now. Don't need to care. We're all out. All right. Number 2, second pick overall in this draft, Jaylen Green. He has averaged in his career to date 19.8 points, 4.1 rebounds, 3.3 assists, 42, 33.5 splits from the field, 79.4 from the free throw line, 49.6 effective field goal percentage. Like basically his numbers are the same even from last year. So last year he averaged 19.6 points, 5.2 rebounds, so upped his rebounds by 1, 3.5 assists, 42.3 from the field, 33.2 from 3, 80.4 from the free throw line, 49.8 effective field goal percentage. So literally like basically the same across the board.
The only notable thing I'll say is like, so 28 games post All-Star break, he averaged his numbers had a little uptick, 23, 6 and 4. I don't know how many minutes I don't know how many minutes he played. More notably than the counting stats, in the 54 games pre All-Star break, he had a minus 1.8 plus minus, and in the 28 games after, he had a plus 4.8, coinciding with his true shooting up from 53 to 56. Oh, his usage only went up by like from 27 to 28.
So what we'll do with this is like, one,
my God, his pre All-Star break numbers are so fucking bad. 41, 31.
We'll definitely get into that. So one, I guess like the Rockets have, at least initially, they leaked months ago that they're probably not going to seriously engage in extension talks with either him or Alperen Sengun, who we'll talk about later. Forgetting that, I mean, one, do you think that's a mistake on their part, or two, like I don't, mostly because I'm pretty sure Jaylen Green thinks he like should get maxed, and I'm obviously not going to max him. Like zero chance I would max him. And personally, I just wouldn't. I don't like Jaylen Green. I think he's kind of like a fool's gold type of player. I'd be trying to get out of the Jaylen Green business as lucratively as I could. Whatever value I could recoup, I would be all in to try and get that. But like, I mean, I guess, do you think it's a mistake not to extend him, or are you pretty good with the idea of like, hey, let's just hold off on making any decision here and see what happens going into next season?